How's it going, hodlers? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin, where it's going and what's happening, because obviously there's a lot of fear in the market. And I understand it. I get it. You really got to take a step back though and understand exactly what you're investing in. This is the future of the financial world. I promise you, we're here and we're here for the long term. Don't sell. Please don't sell at a loss. Just reduce your dollar cost average. First, before we get into the video, obviously we're sitting at almost 3,000 subscribers. If you like the video, go ahead and subscribe, and obviously like the video. I did go over the Bitcoin conference as well, so go ahead and check out that video as well. But let's get into it. Let's get into the meat of Bitcoin. What is happening right now? So right now we are holding our 32,000, which is an important metric to hold. If we do go below the 32,000, it is going to be a bearish trend for Bitcoin. Definitely going to be seeing some of the numbers that I've been discussing even into last week. We discussed exactly that Bitcoin could go down below maybe 30K, 29K, 28K. Now, I don't know exactly how much lower below that point it can go, but realistically, the ground is the limit. So there could actually be a significant drop in Bitcoin. But I would say even if we do go sub maybe 29, 28K, it probably won't be down there for long. So I would take full advantage of that time to accumulate and lower your dollar cost average, especially if you were someone buying Bitcoin at 60K. But I get how scary this all is and where the market is. Obviously, we're at extreme fear right now, and this is probably the most fearful that we've actually been in. I think all-time fearful is 10 in the recent dump, but we're equally as fearful now. I think although we are super fearful, I think at this point we have had a lot of the weak hands be shooken out of the market, and considering that, we have a lot more diamond hands, if you would, that are actually holding on to Bitcoin right now. So that is an important thing to keep in mind, that there are a lot of people still holding Bitcoin and a lot of people refuse to sell. So realistically, could we hold the 32,000 mark? Yes. But the reason why I'm a little tentative is because I said that we could hold the 42,000 right up here when clearly we didn't. And if we check our weekly, we are below the bull market support band. So we are fighting down at the lower levels. But it doesn't mean that we can't get out of this, but we might have been right saying that we could be down here in a longer period of time. And of course, going back to the daily chart, Bitcoin is heading in for a death cross, and that could mean that we go down perpetually below the 32,000. So that's why I want people to understand that we could go below 32,000 and even sub 30,000 Bitcoin. But even considering that, we do have a lot of support. We have a good amount of support at the 32,000 mark. And if you do open up the Bollinger Band, you do see that we're at the bottom. So that's another added layer of support. Now, again, the Bollinger Band, I don't really look at in terms of the macro, where everything's going in the long term or anything like that. But it's an okay metric to base, short-term action, what things are going to do. But a Bollinger Band isn't always correct, so we could absolutely go down further. But I think my whole point here is to say that as much as there is bearish sentiment for Bitcoin, there's also a good amount of support at the level that it's at. So even if it does go sub 30,000, I don't think it'll be down there for long. And even if it is down there for long, we've talked about a reaccumulation period in an extended period of time. And at that point, we would pick up our market cycle at a later period, or at least the bull part of the market cycle. And again, we discussed in some videos last week exactly about lengthening market cycles and how this market should be a lot longer than other markets. And really, if it's going down at this point, it's no big deal. We've discussed, is the party over? And of course, the party is not over. But right now is exactly when you buy. The big thing that I notice is it's so easy for people to buy Bitcoin up here, but it's not easy down here. Now keep in mind, it was also easy right in this zone. And the reason why it was easy in that zone is because it was going up. The sentiment had changed. Now everyone's looking super bearish, so the sentiment is different. Remember the saying, get greedy when people are fearful and get fearful when people are greedy. And that's exactly how you should be looking at everything. Now take it from somebody with a little bit of experience with dips. If you look at March, it was super easy for people to buy Bitcoin coming up to the $10,000 mark. And then when it dropped and went all the way down to 3,000, this is when people did not want to buy. But of course, the people that did buy in this zone had so much more gains than people that were buying Bitcoin at a higher price. So just remember where we could go in the next year or so and understand exactly how much of a percentage you could earn just by buying the dip. I know when you have extreme fear in the market and everyone's talking about how Bitcoin's a scam and it's going down and everyone's really scared of where everything's going, I know at that point it's really hard to hold on to your bags. But it's important to understand exactly where it's going to go from here. And it's also important to recognize that every 3 years, Bitcoin has had a positive percentage rate. So as long as you really don't sell, you should be fine. Even people that bought the peak in 2017 eventually made it into profit, and they'd still be in profit today. So just keep that in mind at all times when you're looking at this market. So don't be concerned if you were buying Bitcoin at 60K. I would look at this opportunity and this extended opportunity to take advantage of and reduce your dollar cost average and really build a much bigger position into Bitcoin and into altcoins. Speaking about altcoins in the altcoin market, Cardano is one specific altcoin that has held extremely well. We've talked about the $1.50 mark over and over for Cardano, and of course, it's still holding that $1.50. Cardano boys are just like, what dip, right? So good for Cardano. Cardano is held strong. I'm happy that Cardano is at this point. Again, I haven't sold any Cardano. I'm really happy with where Cardano is. I think as long as we hold above the $1.50, that's super bullish for Cardano. Could it go lower? Absolutely. But I'd say anything sub the $1.50 mark is probably a steal for Cardano. So I'd absolutely be picking it up. DOT being one of them, obviously breaking back out, getting back out of this line of resistance. So DOT is obviously going into a much more bearish trend similar to what Bitcoin's going through. But we do have Ethereum still holding on to a good amount of its profits, just like what Cardano was doing. So we could still see booms in the altcoin market, regardless of what Bitcoin's doing. So if we look at the total altcoin market cap, we're still floating around the low end now at the $1.5 trillion mark. We have been bouncing around the 1.7, 1.5 in the past week or so. So obviously we're still going to be bouncing around with this zone. It is what it is at this point. I think we're just going to go trade for an extended period of time. If you look at the altcoin market, this is probably the most severe that we've seen it in the last little while. We've seen some pretty considerable dips, but if you look at what's happened other than 2017, I'd probably say the most severe that we've seen was the March dip here, which even looks a little bit more severe. So this is the whole market cap, including Bitcoin. So if you even look at this fractal here and take it from the top, the total crypto market cap actually dropped significantly more than what it dropped now. So I'm not saying that we are going lower, but I'm saying that we could go lower. So obviously I'm trying to stress caution with this. Often when I talk about charts and when I talk about Bitcoin and where everything's going to go, you have to look at everything as a trend. It's not going to suddenly go up, especially if it hasn't gone up already. And since we hit down below that 42,000 mark, broke through that line of support and broke into this channel and now fighting through the 32,000, at this point, a V-shaped recovery is not at all in the cards. So are we going to bounce back up here and bounce up and make another market peak and end the market cycle by the end of the year? I definitely don't think so. I think there's a lot of people in that camp. There are a lot of people that think that we could go and boom up from this point and get up to maybe like $150,000 Bitcoin. Let's go on the low end, $100,000 Bitcoin. You'd essentially be going for that by the end of August, by the end of September, to hit that target. So I don't think that something like this is realistic with how much Bitcoin would need to gain on a daily basis to regain this point. I think at this point, we're probably more correct by saying that the market cycle is not done, but we're going to trade in an extended downturn, possibly go into some new lows, and eventually make it up out of that channel and continue our market cycle in 2022. I think that is probably the most realistic thing that could happen. We discussed that in the video last week. I'm going to link it at the end of this video. And just to go over one more time, the crypto market cap is currently sitting on CoinGecko, $1.55 trillion. Bitcoin is sitting at 32,800, Ethereum almost $2,500. BNB is at $3.50. Cardano is at $1.54. Dogecoin is at 32 cents. XRP is down to 86 cents. We're seeing a lot of volume, by the way, on Tether and on USDC. Polkadot is down to 21, but that hasn't really changed over the last little bit. It's dropped approximately 10% in the last 24 hours, but not as much as other tokens. Solana is still held pretty well at $40. The Internet Computer is a project that we were talking about on the live stream. I'm really interested in it. I've looked a little bit more into it, and I'd probably say anything sub $100 for this token is probably a good buy. So this, at this point, $81 is probably a great entry point to get in, especially if you're bullish long term. Polygon Matic has held on to a good amount of its gains. It is down 23% on the 7-day, but that's on the low end of a lot of cryptocurrencies, and it is currently trading at $1.44. I am putting out a Matic video on Thursday. Make sure to check that out. Subscribe to watch that. It's going to be talking about Matic, liquidity pools, and DeFi, the new cross-chain DEX that's come out on the Polygon system. And I'd probably also mention that VeChain at this point is held on to a good amount of its gains, but I'd probably say at this point it is looking like a buy because just looking at how much support it actually has. And one last thing, just to leave you guys with this, remember, get greedy when people are fearful. Get fearful when people are greedy. This is exactly the time that you should be accumulating. I know it's hard. I know you're probably thinking, what are you doing? You're just dumping money into this. Is this a Ponzi scheme? You're probably thinking of all these things because these are the exact same things that I thought in March of 2020. And of course, I'm not thinking them now because I know exactly where this is going. So if you believe in what we're investing here, then hodl. That's it for me, everybody. Hopefully you liked. Go ahead and like the video, subscribe for more crypto news and content, and happy hodling.